Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week I talked to Alex Locke, the new executive director at Beth Jacob Congregation. We talk about his journey in the Twin Cities Jewish world, working in the suburb he grew up in, and the big shoes he's filling in this new role on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Alex Locke, welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Super fun to be here.
So, Alex, you are the new executive director at Beth Jacob Congregation in Mendota Heights. First of all, mazel tov on the job.
Thank you.
You replacing Sean Murphy, who's been not just at Beth Jacob for a long time, but working in the Jewish in the synagogue world in the Twin Cities for a long time. Does it feel like kind of big shoes to fill?
Huge shoes to fill. Sean was very beloved here. And for good reason. I mean, just the couple weeks that I have spent with him, the amount that he not only does, but knows about the synagogue is incredibly overwhelming. So huge shoes to fill. Thankfully, I have had some time with him, and thankfully we have a super dedicated board and group of lay leaders who are there to support me. But yes, the long answer is very big shoes to fill, and I am aware of that every day.
I'm sorry then to keep reminding you with that question, but and I ask it only because there's so much institutional knowledge when there's a transition like that. But like you said, at least you had the opportunity to work with him, and there has been like a pretty significant transition time. Was that something that was planned or just sort of a happy accident?
No, it was planned. The board was very conscious about that. So we had a few week overlap, which was great. And he's actually still here through the end of May, just for an occasional, I need a question answered because I'm not sure what to do about it kind of thing. So he is still available. And because he cares about this shul, I mean, he spent almost 12 years here. He has said, if 6 months down the line, you need a question answered, reach out to me. I will be happy to answer the question for you. So he's not just disappearing off the grid because he cares about this place and he cares about the legacy, which
that's awesome.
Does make me feel really good to know.
That's huge. I mean, that's such a big deal that you have that kind of overlap opportunity to learn from him.
Absolutely. And the truth is, we could spend 6 months together and I still won't know everything because the job's just that big. That's the nature of what this is. And so every moment I have with him, I'm appreciative. But like I said, I'm really surrounded by great lay people, our board, our committee members who know so much about this shul. Many who have been here even from the beginning, if not close to the beginning, and had just know the ins and outs, which is hugely beneficial to me.
So you've been around in the sort of the Twin Cities Jewish, the professional Jew world, as we like to call it at Jewfolk, for a long time. What is sort of your path to get to Beth Jacob?
Yeah. So I worked, so I've been a nonprofit leader for 20 years here in the Twin Cities specifically. I worked for 5 years at the St. Paul JCC back when they were separate entities. I was at the St. Paul JCC, and in the 5 years, I had 4 different jobs. First, I was the Twin Cities Jewish Singles Coordinator. Then I was the Children's Director and Assistant Camp Butwin Director. In 2005, we hosted the JCC Maccabi Games, which was a massive community undertaking, involved everyone on both sides of the river. And I was the assistant director for that. And then after that, I was promoted to director of Camp Butwin and Lodge on the Lake. After that, I then went to the Sabus JCC, and I was there for a couple of years as the director of youth and camping. And then I kind of wanted to make myself a little more well-rounded. I had worked with adults and I had worked with kids. I had not worked with senior adults. So I went to the Reutenberg residence on the Sholem campus in St. Louis Park, and I was the program director there for a few years. And then I actually left Jewish communal work for about 10 years, and I worked at Bloomington Community Education, which is an entity of Bloomington Public Schools. And I was the director of youth and adult services there. And I supervised 8 different departments, which included the youth and family department, the adult enrichment and education department. I created the inclusion department, the marketing and communications department, aquatics, So kind of a whole vast array. And then I unfortunately was laid off during the pandemic, which we know so many people were. And here I am today.
Well, that's quite a variety of experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, you've really, I mean, I feel like we're underselling it to say you've done it all in the Twin Cities, in the Jewish world.
Yeah, I've done a lot. I haven't done it all, and I'm very fortunate that I've worked both in St. Paul and Minneapolis, both at the Jewish community centers at Sholem, but even when I was the singles coordinator, that was a Twin City-wide position.
Okay.
So I got to work with all the different synagogues, all the different agencies and organizations on both sides. So stepping into this role at Beth Jacob, I feel like just a slight leg up in that I do know so many people from my time in the community, and I also grew up here. So I grew up in Mendota Heights, less than a mile from where Beth Jacob is. So I know the community as well. I graduated from Sibley High School, which is in Mendota Heights. So even though my family was members of Temple of Aaron growing up, my grandfather was a president. I was on the board. My sister and I were both USY presidents. So I grew up at Temple of Aaron, but I actually grew up in Mendota Heights. So I've been very much a part of this community for so long, both professionally and personally.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's so great that you have this experience. And I was going to ask, I didn't know, I knew you grew up in St. Paul. I didn't know which synagogue on that side. You know, it's interesting. I say the word side, and I do it sort of tongue
I know, we all do.
I mean, now tongue in cheek, you know, we're both we're of an age and certainly a generation where like sides of the river, like it doesn't mean as much. I mean, there's certainly communal pride, and that's great, but it means less. There are certainly, like Beth Jacob certainly draws from, you know, all over the area, just, you know, the same way Adath or Bethel or Temple of Aaron or Temple Israel, like we draw from everywhere now, all the synagogues.
Yeah, and very much what you said is what I was just going to say. I didn't realize that coming to Beth Jacob, what a large population from Minneapolis is here, which is great. And we're talking board members, people who are incredibly active, and it's because this is the synagogue, this is the shul that speaks to them. And so,
Right.
Yeah, I think those boundaries are coming down, slowly, which is great. I mean, again, you think of the mergers of the JCCs. So I think we're all realizing the more we work together, the better off we are. And it's okay if we cross the river and spend a little gas money to get there, because it's making our Jewish community more whole.
You know, and Beth Jacob is yes, it's Mendota Heights, but I think a lot of people may not realize just it's not that far of a drive from like Southeast Minneapolis.
Right.
It's an awfully quick trip.
Yeah. It's pretty much a bridge away from the airport.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know, give a shout out to, I'm 99% sure she's on your board, but Orit Ackerman, who has done a lot of writing at TC Jewfolk, who speaks so highly of Beth Jacob and is such an advocate. And she's a St. Louis Park resident.
Yeah, she's amazing, and she is not only on the board; she's actually incoming co-president.
So I sold her short. I apologize, Orit.
Right, a year from this June, her and Lori Fink will take over as co-presidents of Beth Jacob. So she's incredibly involved. She is the chairperson of our annual fundraiser, which is going on a week from this coming Sunday. So we are kind of knee deep into that as well. And she is an incredibly hard and beyond organized person, which is my style. So super fun to be able to work with her.
That's fantastic. So given, you sort of went through the resume, given everything you've done and sort of what lies ahead of you now, Beth Jacob, what do you see as some of the challenges that you might face coming in, and how does that experience that you have at different agencies working with different ages and people at different stages of life, it does feel like that resume is really perfect for an executive directorship at a synagogue.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the challenges, which not only any Jewish agency, but any agency, is budget, right? I mean, we all know everyone's struggling with the budget right now. When I worked in Bloomington, I was responsible for a $5 million budget. So I bring that experience here into Beth Jacob. Now, I don't know much about our finances at this point. Thankfully, we have an incredibly active finance committee and board, and I am learning every day from them about the finances. But once I have a handle on it, I'm already looking at ways that we can make changes while not altering the quality of what we do, but just maybe a different approach. And so budgeting, I think, is one of the huge things I bring in terms of challenges. And then I think, like anybody else, I think we always want to increase our membership. And so I'm one of those people who loves to talk with community members, who loves to bring new ideas. I am someone who never rests on our laurels. I hate the phrase, that's how we've always done it. I love being new and innovative and creative. And so I think the more we can do that, we will bring in more members to show them how amazing Beth Jacob is. I had been here before for, simchas, unfortunately, for funerals and for just Shabbat services, but I had never spent that much time here. In the short time I have been here, I'm amazed at the population, how involved everybody is, and how much is going on here. I mean, you look at the fact that there's a pandemic going on, but holy cow, the calendar is full almost every day of different things that people can participate in via Zoom or whatever that method is. And so there's just so much going on. And so I'm looking forward to eventually bringing that, my experience with programming as well. Because again, I like to continue to challenge ourselves to do better and to bring new people in and do different things.
You mentioned hating the phrase, that's the way it's always been done. I do as well. And that phrase to me is just it's an anchor against progress.
Totally.
And I got into a, full on argument with somebody at an old job who's like, well, I said, why do we do it this way? Well, because that's how we've always done it. I'm like, yeah, but that's a terrible way to do it.
Right.
And it's like, well, that's how we do it.
Right. And maybe there is a reason, but then what is the reason? And is that the best way? And is it the most effective way to still do that? Oftentimes it's not. Sometimes it is. But then again, you have to ask those questions and have an understanding and make sure that that still makes sense. And oftentimes there's ways to change and grow.
Yeah. And if you can't explain the why, then it might be time to innovate your reasons for doing something.
Absolutely. The why is huge.
Right.
I mean, we all know at this point, when there's change, the why has to go along with that. People need to understand the reason behind it. And I get that, especially in our line of work, when people are so invested, you have to explain the why so it makes sense to them so they get on board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a huge barrier at times to try to get your way of thinking about something like that. When you have so many constituencies running a synagogue, I would think, hopefully it won't be a problem to sort of infuse that new way of doing things and looking at things.
Yeah. And time will tell, because I'm still new. I don't know enough to be able to answer that question, but yeah, I mean, and I go back to like what we just said, the why, being able to explain that to them. And of course, there's going to be some people who have been doing things for years a certain way, and they're just used to that. But one of the things I ask is just try, give me the benefit of the doubt. Let's try it and see what happens. And if it fails miserably, then we'll go back to the other way. But give me the opportunity to try. And I think you have to ask that favor.
Yeah. And have people, I mean, again, I asked this question fully recognizing it's been like 5 minutes that you've been there, but have people been receptive to that approach so far?
I haven't tried anything new. I will be trying new things. So I haven't had to really cross that bridge yet, but just working with the people that I have already been working with, I know how receptive they are. And the truth is, they want to make sure we're doing things right and doing them the best way. And a new leader, a new executive director is always an opportunity for someone with a fresh set of eyes, someone with an outside set of eyes to come in and take a look and say, are we doing this right? Does this make sense? So I think I'm surrounded by the right people that will go along with this and understand that that's the beauty of a new person, is they can take an outside look at it.
I think the other it's an interesting coincidence of timing, really, that you're starting. Rabbi Adam Rubin, the new senior rabbi, is I can still say new. It's been less than a year. I think we can still call him new.
Yes.
Is that you have this sort of new leadership. It's an interesting time. Anytime you have that kind of big transition of either an executive director or a rabbi, I think it sort of marks an interesting period of time for the, in the life of a synagogue. But you have both of them within 9 months of each other. It's I think it adds a little more intrigue even to it.
It does. And even in one of my interviews for this position, that came up. And one of the committee members said, that could be a challenge. And before I said it, almost the entire rest of the committee jumped in and said, but it's actually an opportunity. It's like, yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. This is an opportunity. It's a great time. Again, both Rabbi Rubin and I are not coming in to change everything that's ever been done. This place is based on tradition for over 30 years, and we want to keep that alive. But again, there's always an opportunity for change. And again, because we have such a dedicated group of members who are so involved, they will be part of that process along the way.
And I think it's an interesting, thing you bring up. And, the synagogue is not that old. It's a 30-odd-year-old congregation. Rabbi Rubin's only the second senior rabbi of when he replaced Rabbi. I mean, again, you can't replace Rabbi Allen, but you can succeed Rabbi Allen.
Right.
But, it doesn't have the longevity that several other of the synagogues do in the Twin Cities. So I think it's, like you said, it's there are still founders of the synagogue who are involved. Whereas, for example, Adath does not have founders of the synagogue, at 130 years old, 35 years old.
Right.
Right. It does not have founders of the synagogue still involved. So you have people who you say institutional knowledge, it's not like a generation. It's literally the people who helped lay the bricks to start the congregation.
Yes, literally laid the bricks, which is like you said, that's huge. Most of the other synagogues don't have that opportunity. So we have that we can rely on that knowledge, and we can go back to them and say, why did we do this from the beginning? What was the reason? What was the purpose of that? I mean, so to have that history literally at our fingertips is a unique opportunity.
And I think it gives you a chance to to understand the way it was always done before. Because when it becomes like a thing that's passed down from generations to generation, nobody necessarily knows why it was done in the first place when it's something that's been done for 60, 70, 80, 100 years.
Exactly. Yep, you're absolutely right.
Here, the people who helped form it and helped start it can explain that.
Let's bring them in and ask why.
and it's great that, I think, and you're fortunate that you have that opportunity to be able to ask the why of people.
Very much so, for both myself and Rabbi Rubin. To come in as new people. He was from out of town, even more so. I was a part of this community, like I said, growing up, but he is brand new. So yes, to be able to have those people that we can reach out to really is priceless.
In some ways, I think it's got to be a little bit weird isn't the right word, but funny you're older than the congregation you're now working at. You could probably you might be able to remember when it started.
I do, yeah, because I was in my not quite teens, but yeah. So and as a 10-year-old, you're not invested thinking, oh, there's another synagogue, but it is, oh, there's another synagogue that is being built a mile from my house. What does that mean? What changes and that type of thing. And so again, for our family, we stayed members of Temple of Aaron, but a lot of people didn't, and a lot of people moved, and a lot of those people are still here at Beth Jacob today and are incredibly happy. Like I said, it's an amazing place, even more so than I realized a month ago when I started, how happy I'd be and the people that I would be surrounded by.
Well, it's great. And I think it's a great opportunity for you to be able to reconnect with the Mendota Heights community. And again, like we said, the traditional borders, I don't think really exist anymore. But I think for a lot of people, they might still, but it gives you a chance to reconnect with your home community, like where you grew up.
Absolutely. I met with the chief of police the other day just to introduce myself and to make that connection. And she graduated 2 years before me from the same high school. It's like even those connections. I mean, we know we all can play Jewish geography.
Sure.
Now even I have those connections at the police department. Like, who knew that was going to be a possibility? And then here we are, both homegrown leaders.
Well, and it's funny. I think when you get into the smaller towns, the smaller suburbs like that, you do find the people who, lead some, sort of those organizations tend to be lifers in that community.
Absolutely.
Like they make a choice to come back and serve.
Right. For a reason. That's where
Yes.
you grew up and that's where you love. That's where you spend, your formative years.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I mean, this sounds like an amazing opportunity for you. You sound like you're, chomping at the bit to really get into it. And hopefully one of these days we can all sort of be in person to be able to get together and do these things.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be lovely.
I think it's on the horizon. I think we know that. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're getting to that point, and I think we're all thankful and ready for it.
I think we're all ready for it. That would be a nice thing to be able to get to do. No question.
Absolutely.
Well, all right. Well, Alex Locke, thank you so much for your time. Last two questions, and we're going to let you get back to your busy, still, figuring it all out day that you have. What is your favorite Jewish holiday?
I'm going to sound like a kid when I say this, but Hanukkah. And it's
nothing wrong with that.
It's not about presents, although who doesn't love giving presents to kids? Because that's super fun to see their eyes open wide and scream when they open the wrapping paper. But I've always loved it because I love that time of year, because that's the stay inside and snuggle in and hunker down kind of weather. And I love potato latkes. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Right.
And when I was a kid, my mom always decorated the house, and it was just kind of that festive, fun time of year. And we always did a Hanukkah party where the whole family got together. So I think I've always loved Hanukkah. Yeah.
And you may have spoiled it, but I'll ask it anyway. What is your favorite Jewish food?
Yeah, I'll go with latkes. But they have to be crispy. And if they're not, forget it. Not interested.
Applesauce or sour cream?
I actually like nothing on them.
Oh.
A little sprinkle of salt, but I'm a purist.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do you like making your own latkes, or is there somebody's out there that you like to go procure?
So my mom has made them for years. My husband and I tried them for the very first time this year together. I even forgot whose it was, some recipe off of Food Network, and we really liked it.
Okay.
So I'm open. So if anybody out there has a good latke recipe to share, as long as I can make them crispy, send them my way.
All right. Well, that sounds awesome. I hope you get some takers on your recipe search there. Well, Alex Locke, thank you for joining me. It was great to catch up, and Mazel Tov on your new job, and best of luck there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.